To make your sgraffito tiles, you'll start with a slab of clay and you will be cutting out a template. Clean off the texture both sides of your clay and then put your slab of clay on a wear board so that you can turn the wear board as you cut. Lay your template on top of the slab of clay and pull your needle tool towards you, turning the wear board as you cut so that you are making the cleanest cuts possible. After you cut around your template, cut the excess clay away from the clay that you've cut out in the middle instead of trying to pry your cut shape out of the middle of that slab. Once you've cut out your tiles, you'll want to make sure you go back through with a slightly damp sponge to clean up the edges. Make sure that there aren't any sharp edges or burrs on the edges of those tiles. Those only get more sharp as they dry and are fired. So clean those up while your clay is nice and soft. We will be applying black slip, which is liquid clay, to the top of our tile so that we can carve through and reveal the white clay underneath. Make sure before you put the slip on your tiles that you mix it up really well because it separates as it sits, and sometimes there's water on the top of the slip that needs to get mixed in. To put the slip on your tiles, you're going to need a really soft brush, and you're going to need to wait until your tiles have become just about leather hard. We want them firm enough to absorb the water in the slip so that the slip will dry relatively quickly. When you apply the slip to your tiles, make sure you don't over brush. If you brush over and over and over, you're going to start pulling your white clay up instead of laying down the black slip. So you'll just do a couple of brush passes in each direction and focusing on trying to smooth the slip over the tile rather than sort of scraping it on. You want to leave a layer of slip on those tiles so that they're fully covered. Once the slip on your tile is dry and it's no longer shiny, you can start your sgraffito carving. You're going to take a drawing that you have. So we're going to do our drawing, prepare your drawings on a piece of paper, and then you're going to take that paper and put it right on top of your tile. Your paper should be the same size as your tile. This was, but my tile has shrunk a little bit. So once I lay that on top, now I'm ready to do something where I'm going to transfer this drawing to the tile beneath. And I'm just going to do that by retracing this drawing with a ballpoint pen. Don't use a needle tool, it'll tear your paper. But when we draw through this paper onto the tile, it will leave an indentation that will give us an indication of where we want to make our carvings. It won't carve through the slip, but it will leave a line that we can use to guide us. So you can see that down below. If you lift up, make sure you don't move the paper entirely. Just lift up parts so that you can make sure you are not getting your drawing off of where it was to start. So now I have a guide and I'm ready to start carving. The tools we have in the classroom that are good for sgraffito are these stylus tools, these loop tools. There's a couple different sizes and shapes, and then this pointed tool with a brush on the end. When it's time to start carving your tile, you'll use the sharp carving tools to carve away the black slip and reveal the white clay underneath. This is a backwards way of thinking because you're carving away the white areas and leaving the dark areas on, which is kind of a reverse drawing method. One thing to make sure that you're doing is to not just carve in simple lines. If you just carve simple lines in, your drawing is not going to be very exciting. But if you can highlight texture and make sure that you are using the tools to draw in as much pattern as you can, that will help your tile be as interesting as possible. You want to leave a nice dark line in between different shapes so that those shapes really pop out. And then also just concentrate on where you want to leave dark areas behind and where you want to have the white clay showing through. You'll have to think about the reverse of where the light shines. Where the light is shining on your object, you want it to be lighter, so that's the area you're going to carve away the most. And areas that are darker are areas that you will leave with the dark slip on them. Make sure you think about all the spaces on your tile. Think about the foreground, the area that's closer to your viewer. Think about the background, areas that go further away. And make sure you fill every area of your tile with some intentional mark or some indication that you've thought about that space. Carving in patterns or repeated marks is another way to show that you've considered every space on your tile. Here you'll see I'm just carving in a checkerboard pattern in the background or the area behind my orange, and that just shows that it's a different plane or different level of space than the tabletop or the surface that the orange is sitting on. One more thing to pay attention to is all the little burrs that come up when you carve away the black slip. If you're not careful, they will want to stick back down to the white area, and that will muddy up your white clay. So make sure you're consistently brushing those little burrs or pieces of slip and clay off so they don't get stuck back down to your tile.